The girl's body was already cold when Deshaun Rivers found her. At least, that's what he thought as he knelt in the red dirt beside Route 66, his hands shaking as he pressed 2 fingers against her neck. The Illinois sun was setting behind him, painting the empty highway in shades of blood orange, and for 3 terrible seconds, he felt nothing. No pulse. No breath. No hope. Then, there. Faint. Impossibly faint. But there. She was alive. Barely. And Deshaun had no idea that saving her would cost him everything he had left. 30 minutes earlier, Deshaun had been a different kind of desperate. He sat in his rusted 2008 Ford pickup outside the Quick Mart in Springfield, counting the same bills he'd counted that morning. $38. 3 tens, a 5, and 3 crumpled ones that looked like they'd been through a washing machine. His daughter Amora's voice echoed in his head from breakfast. "Daddy, can I get new shoes? The kids at school keep saying mine are ugly." He'd told her yes. He'd lied. "If you're listening right now, help me prove something wrong. My mother told me these stories wouldn't matter, that nobody cares about a single dad fighting impossible odds. But I believe Deshaun's story deserves to be heard. Hit that subscribe button and help me show her that courage, sacrifice, and redemption still mean something in this world." $38 had to cover food, gas, and the electricity bill that was already 2 weeks late. New shoes weren't even in the same universe as possible. Not for a single dad working overnight shifts at Springfield Memorial's loading dock, unloading medical supplies for $12 an hour. Not for a man whose MIT biomedical engineering degree hung on the wall of their 1-bedroom apartment like a ghost of who he used to be. Before his wife Shanice died giving birth to Amora. Before the medical debt swallowed him whole. Before he became invisible. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. "Mr. Rivers." A man's voice, rushed, stressed. "My name is Tom Mitchell. My car broke down on Route 66, about 40 miles south of Springfield. Near mile marker 183. I've got a flight to catch out of St. Louis in 2 hours, and I'll pay you $200 cash if you can tow me to the nearest shop. Can you do it?" Deshaun's heart jumped. $200. That was groceries. That was Amora's shoes. That was breathing room. "I'll be there in 30 minutes, he said. He'd kissed Amora goodbye at Mrs. Chen's apartment next door, promised he'd be back before bedtime, and driven south on Route 66 with hope burning in his chest for the first time in months. But when he reached mile marker 183, there was no car. No Tom Mitchell. Just empty highway stretching toward the horizon, heat waves shimmering off the asphalt like lies. Deshaun killed the engine and stepped out into the brutal heat, frustration rising in his throat. He'd been scammed. Some sick joke, probably. Or someone who'd already gotten help and forgot to call back. He checked his phone. No signal. Perfect. Just perfect. Deshaun was about to leave when he saw it. A flash of white in the ditch, about 50 yards back. He'd driven right past it. At first, he thought it was trash. A plastic bag, maybe. Then the wind shifted, and he saw the shape, too deliberate, too organic. His stomach dropped. Deshaun ran. His work boots slammed against the gravel shoulder as his mind raced through possibilities, each one worse than the last. By the time he reached the ditch, his paramedic training from MIT, the emergency response certification he'd earned before life derailed him, was already taking over. The girl lay on her side in the dirt, half hidden by tall grass. 19, maybe 20. Long dark hair matted with blood. Designer jeans torn and stained. A white blouse that used to be expensive, now soaked red at the shoulder. Her phone lay 3 feet away, screen shattered, still buzzing with incoming calls. The name flashing on the screen made Deshaun's breath catch. Dad, 23 missed calls. He dropped to his knees beside her, his hands moving on pure instinct. Can you hear me?" Nothing. He pressed 2 fingers to her carotid artery. The pulse was there, but wrong, too fast, too weak, too irregular. Her breathing was shallow, labored. Blood trickled from a gash along her hairline. But it was the bruising on her ribs that terrified him. Dark purple, spreading. Internal bleeding. Deshaun's hands were steady as he checked her airway, tilted her head, examined the wounds. 8 years of loading medical supplies hadn't erased the training. He knew exactly what he was looking at. She had maybe 30 minutes. Maybe less. The nearest hospital was Springfield Memorial, 23 miles north. No cell service meant no ambulance. No backup. Just him. And then her eyes fluttered open. Just for a second. Brown eyes, unfocused, drowning in pain. She grabbed his wrist with surprising strength. They pushed. Her voice was barely a whisper, wet with blood. Pushed me, black car, they're coming back. Her grip went slack. Her eyes closed. Deshawn's blood turned to ice. That's when he heard it. An engine. Low, powerful, coming from the south. Deshawn's head snapped up. A black Mercedes SUV was approaching slowly, too slowly, like it was searching for something. The windows were tinted so dark he couldn't see inside, but every instinct in his body screamed danger. The SUV slowed as it approached his truck. Deshawn's mind raced. The girl's words, they pushed me. Black car. This was them. Coming back to finish what they'd started. He had seconds to decide. Leave her and save himself? Try to hide her? Fight? His eyes fell to the girl's face, pale and still in the dying light. Then he thought of Amora. His little girl, waiting for him at Mrs. Chen's, trusting that Daddy always came home. If he helped this stranger, he might not make it home tonight. If he didn't, he'd have to look his daughter in the eye and explain why he'd left someone to die. The Mercedes was 20 yards away now. 15. 10. Deshawn made his choice. He scooped the girl into his arms, she was lighter than she should have been, fragile as glass, and ran for his truck. His boots pounded against the dirt. His lungs burned. Behind him, the Mercedes's engine growled louder. He yanked open the passenger door, laid her across the seat, slammed it shut, and dove into the driver's side. The engine roared to life. He threw the truck into drive and punched the accelerator. In his rearview mirror, the black Mercedes sat motionless on the shoulder, watching him flee. Deshawn's hands gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles went white. The girl's blood was already soaking into his passenger seat. Her breathing was getting worse. He had 23 miles to save her life. And he had no idea that the unconscious stranger bleeding out beside him was Olivia Castellan, daughter of Chicago's most powerful and dangerous billionaire. Or that by saving her, he'd just declared war on a man who destroyed anyone who got in his way. Deshawn's truck screamed down Route 66 at 85 miles per hour, the engine rattling like it might explode. In the passenger seat, Olivia Castellan's breathing had become a horrible wet rattle. Blood soaked through the towel he'd pressed against her ribs. Her lips were turning blue. Stay with me, Deshawn whispered, one hand on the wheel, one hand checking her pulse at every red light. Don't you dare die on me. You hear me? Don't you dare. 23 minutes. That's how long it took to reach Springfield Memorial Hospital. 23 minutes of praying to a God he wasn't sure listened anymore. 23 minutes of watching this stranger's life slip away, millimeter by millimeter. When he screeched into the emergency bay, he was already shouting. I need help. Now. Deshawn kicked open his door, running around to the passenger side. I've got a Jane Doe, early 20s, severe head trauma, suspected internal bleeding, possible punctured lung. Two nurses burst through the doors with a gurney. They froze when they saw him, 6 feet 2 inches, black, covered in blood, wild-eyed. Sir, step back. I'm telling you she's got maybe 10 minutes. Deshawn's voice cracked. His old paramedic training made him sound more authoritative than a loading dock worker should. Ribs are bruised, breathing is labored, pulse is thready. She needs a trauma surgeon, not questions. Something in his tone made them move. They loaded Olivia onto the gurney and rushed her inside. Deshawn followed, his boots tracking dirt and blood across the pristine white floors, the same floors he mopped on his overnight shifts. A resident grabbed his arm. Sir, you need to wait here. Are you family? No, I found her. On Route 66. In a ditch. Do you know her name? Deshawn pulled out the shattered iPhone he'd grabbed from the scene. The screen was cracked, but it still worked. He showed them the lock screen, a photo of the girl smiling, arms around an older man in an expensive suit. The emergency contact read, Dad, James Castellan. The resident's face went white. "Get Dr. Morrison," she whispered to a nurse. "And call security. Tell them James Castellan's daughter is here." The name meant nothing to Deshawn. He slumped against the wall, suddenly aware that his hands were shaking, that his heart was pounding, that he'd just used his last $38 worth of gas to save a complete stranger. His phone buzzed. "Mrs. Chen, Amora's asking when you're coming home." "Everything okay?" Deshawn typed back, "Soon. I promise." Another lie. He sat in the waiting room, invisible among the sick and wounded, just another broke black man in a hospital that barely noticed him when he worked there. The clock above the nurse's station ticked toward 9 p.m. Amora would be getting ready for bed soon, wondering where Daddy was. If this story is gripping you, don't just listen, subscribe right now. My son told me nobody would care about a mechanic-turned-hero fighting a system designed to break him. But I know better. I know you're out there, believing that one person's choice to do right can change everything. Hit subscribe and prove him wrong. Show the world these stories still matter. The doors exploded open at 9:47 p.m. James Castellan entered like a hurricane. Mid-50s, silver hair, navy suit that cost more than Deshawn's truck. 4 men in black tactical gear flanked him, private security, not hospital staff. They moved through the ER like they owned it. Because in a way, they did. The Castellan name was on 3 wings of this hospital. "Where is my daughter?" His voice could cut steel. The head nurse pointed toward surgery. "Mr. Castellan, she's in stable condition thanks to the man who brought her in." "Where is he?" Every eye turned to Deshawn. Castellan's gaze locked onto him like a laser sight. He crossed the waiting room in 6 strides, his security detail forming a wall behind him. "You." The word dripped with something Deshawn couldn't name yet. "You brought in Olivia Castellan." Deshawn stood slowly, meeting his eyes. "Yes, sir. I found her in a ditch off Route 66, near mile marker 183. She'd been beaten, left for dead. I stabilized her and—" "What were you doing on Route 66? Castellan's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. I got a call about a broken-down car. When I got there, nobody was there. Then I found your daughter." "A call?" Castellan's eyes narrowed. "From whom?" "I don't know. A man named Tom Mitchell. He said—" "There is no Tom Mitchell." Castellan stepped closer. Deshawn could smell expensive cologne and something else. "Fear, maybe. Or rage. Someone lured you there. And now my daughter is in surgery because you were convenient." Deshawn's stomach dropped. "Sir, I didn't, I saved her life. Or you're part of whoever tried to take it." The security guards moved closer. "Mr. Castellan," a doctor emerged from the surgical wing, still in scrubs. "Your daughter is stable. We've stopped the internal bleeding. She has 2 cracked ribs, a grade 2 concussion, and significant soft tissue damage. But she's going to make a full recovery." The doctor turned to Deshawn. "If you'd been 5 minutes later, she would have bled out. You saved her life." Castellan's face was unreadable. He stared at Deshawn for a long, terrible moment. Then he pulled out a leather wallet and extracted a thick stack of bills. He threw it at Deshawn's feet. $10,000 in hundreds scattered across the hospital floor. "Take it," Castellan said coldly. "And disappear. Don't contact my daughter. Don't talk to the press. Don't even think about lawyers. You were never here. This never happened." Deshawn looked at the money. $10,000. It could change everything. Pay off debts. Feed Amora for a year. Give them breathing room. But something in Castellan's eyes, the contempt, the assumption that every man had a price, made Deshawn's blood boil. "I don't want your money," Deshawn said quietly. "Everyone wants my money." "I'm not everyone." Deshawn turned toward the exit. "I hope your daughter recovers, Mr. Castellan. I'm glad she's alive. That's all I needed to know." He was 3 steps from the door when Castellan's voice stopped him cold. "I know who you are, Deshawn Rivers." Deshawn froze. MIT graduate. Biomedical engineering. Top of your class. Castellan's voice was ice. Emergency medical technician certification. Could have worked anywhere. Should have worked for me, actually. We recruited from MIT that year. Deshawn turned slowly. Castellan smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. So why is a genius working a loading dock? Why is a certified paramedic mopping floors in the hospital where he should be saving lives? That's none of your... Your wife died 8 years ago. Childbirth complications. The medical bills bankrupted you. You dropped out of the industry, took the first job you could find, raised your daughter alone. Castellan pulled out his phone, scrolling. Amora Rivers. Age 8. Attends Washington Elementary. Gets picked up every day by Mrs. Chen, apartment 4B. Deshawn's heart stopped. Don't you dare. I'm not threatening you. Castellan pocketed his phone. I'm showing you that I know everything about you. And here's what else I know. Someone tried to kill my daughter tonight. Someone lured you to that exact spot. Someone wanted you to find her. I don't know anything about that. Maybe. Maybe not. Castellan gestured to his security. But until I know for certain, you're a liability. And I don't allow liabilities to walk free. The guards moved forward. Deshawn's phone buzzed in his pocket. A text from an unknown number. Run. Now. Castellan doesn't leave witnesses. Back exit. Blue sedan waiting. Trust me. Oh. Deshawn's eyes shot to the surgical wing. Through the window, he could see Olivia Castellan awake in recovery, phone in hand, staring directly at him. She mouthed one word, run. And Deshawn realized the billionaire's daughter wasn't the victim he'd saved. She was trying to save him. Deshawn's eyes locked with Olivia's through the recovery room window. The billionaire's daughter, bruised, bandaged, barely conscious, was warning him to run from her own father. The security guards were 5 feet away. James Castellan's voice was cold steel. Take him to the West office. I want answers before the police arrive. Deshawn's hand moved to his phone. The text from Olivia burned in his mind. Blue sedan. Back exit. Trust me. He had 3 seconds to decide. Trust a stranger or face whatever Castellan had planned. He chose to run. Deshawn bolted toward the back hallway, the route he took every night after his loading dock shift ended. He knew every corner, every exit, every shortcut in Springfield Memorial. The security guards were fast, but Deshawn was faster. And more desperate. He crashed through the staff break room, vaulted over a janitor's cart, and burst through the emergency exit into the parking lot. Alarms shrieked behind him. Footsteps pounded on concrete. There, a blue Honda sedan, engine running, passenger door open. Deshawn dove inside. The driver was a woman in her 30s, dark hair, sharp eyes, wearing hospital scrubs. She didn't look at him, just slammed the accelerator. Who are you? Deshawn gasped. Someone who knows what James Castellan does to people who see too much. She took a hard right out of the parking lot, tires squealing. My name is Rachel Martinez. I'm a nurse at Memorial. Olivia texted me from recovery and told me to get you out. Why would she? Because her father didn't want her found alive. Rachel's voice was shaking. And now that you've saved her, you're a witness to something you shouldn't be. Deshawn's mind raced. She said someone pushed her. That they were coming back. They were. Rachel's knuckles were white on the steering wheel. Olivia was supposed to die in that ditch. And when you saved her, you became the only person who could prove it wasn't an accident. Prove what? Who tried to kill her? Rachel glanced at him, and her expression made his blood run cold. The same person who's been killing anyone who gets in his way for the last 15 years. She pulled into an abandoned warehouse district on the south side of Springfield. James Castellan. Rachel killed the engine. In the darkness of the warehouse lot, Deshawn could barely see her face. You need to understand something, she said quietly. You didn't just save a girl tonight. You saved the only person who can take down one of the most dangerous men in Illinois. If you're still with me, hit that subscribe button right now, because what happens next will change everything you thought you knew about power, family, and how far a father will go to protect his empire. My daughter said nobody would believe a story this dark. Prove her wrong. Subscribe and let's finish this together. Rachel led Deshawn into the warehouse. Inside, 3 other people waited, 2 men and a woman, all wearing business casual, all looking exhausted and terrified. Who are they? Deshawn asked. People Olivia has been protecting for the last 2 years. Rachel gestured to them. Marcus worked in Castellan Technologies' finance department. He discovered James was embezzling from his own company, $20 million funneled to offshore accounts. When he tried to report it, James had him framed for fraud. Marcus lost everything. Marcus nodded, his jaw tight. I spent 18 months in prison for something I didn't do. Rachel continued. Jennifer was a journalist investigating Castellan Technologies. She had proof they were selling faulty medical devices to hospitals, devices that caused 12 patient deaths. The day before her story was supposed to run, her house burned down with all her evidence. The fire department called it arson but could never prove it. Jennifer's voice was bitter. My editor was paid off. My career was destroyed. Nobody would publish me after that. And David? Rachel pointed to the third person. His Olivia's ex-boyfriend. When he proposed to her last year, James decided he wasn't good enough for the Castellan name. David was arrested on false drug charges, lost his job as a teacher, and spent 6 months fighting a case that mysteriously disappeared once James made sure everyone knew David was unstable. Deshawn felt sick. Olivia knows all this. She's been documenting it. Rachel pulled out a tablet and opened a hidden folder. For 2 years, she's been gathering evidence. Bank records. Recordings. Emails. Testimony from victims. She was going to turn it all over to the FBI last week. And that's when someone pushed her into that ditch, Deshawn whispered. Not someone. Rachel's eyes were hard. Her father found out. And he decided his own daughter was too dangerous to live. The room went silent. Deshawn thought about Amora. About holding his daughter every night, promising to protect her, to keep her safe. He couldn't imagine, couldn't even comprehend, a father who would. Where's the evidence now? He asked. Olivia has it hidden. Somewhere even James can't find it. Rachel checked her phone. She's texting me now. She says she needs to see you. Tonight. At the hospital. That's insane. Castellan's security is everywhere. She says it's the only way. She has something to tell you. Something she couldn't risk putting in a text. Deshawn's phone buzzed. Mrs. Chen. Deshawn, Amora won't go to sleep. She's worried. Where are you? His heart broke. He'd promised his daughter he'd be home. He'd promised. But if he walked away now, Olivia would face her father alone. And all those people, Marcus, Jennifer, David, and God knows how many others, would never see justice. Take me to the hospital, Deshawn said. They smuggled Deshawn back into Springfield Memorial through the loading dock, the same entrance he used every night for his shift. Rachel's ID badge got them past security. Olivia was sitting up in bed when they entered her room. The private suite was empty. No nurses, no security, no father. You came, she whispered. Her face was pale, stitches visible along her hairline, but her eyes were fierce. Your father tried to kill you, Deshawn said. I know. Olivia's voice didn't waver. And now he's going to try to kill you too. That's why I need you to take this. She held out a small USB drive. Everything is on here. Bank records showing the embezzlement. Video evidence of him ordering the hit on Jennifer's house. Audio recordings of him threatening Marcus. And most importantly, her voice broke. His confession. To me. About what he did to my mother. Deshawn took the drive carefully. Your mother? She didn't commit suicide. Tears streamed down Olivia's face. He poisoned her. Made it look like depression. I was 12. I didn't understand then. But 3 months ago, I found the autopsy report he'd buried. The toxicology showed arsenic levels that were impossible unless. She couldn't finish. Deshawn's hands shook. Olivia, if I take this, you become the most dangerous person in his world. I know. She grabbed his hand. That's why I need you to promise me something. What? If anything happens to me tonight, if he comes for me again, you give that to Agent Sarah Chen at the FBI field office in Chicago. Not Springfield. Chicago. She's been investigating him for years. She'll know what to do. Nothing's going to happen to you. You're safe here. The door burst open. James Castellan stood in the doorway, flanked by 6 security guards. But his eyes weren't on Deshawn. They were locked on his daughter. Olivia. His voice was soft, almost gentle. What have you done? What I should have done 2 years ago. Olivia's voice was steel. I'm ending this, Dad. Tonight. Castellan's mask finally cracked. The charming billionaire disappeared, replaced by something cold and reptilian. You ungrateful little, he stepped forward. After everything I've built. Everything I've done for you. For this family. You murdered Mom. The words hung in the air like smoke. Castellan's eyes went dead. Security. Take Mr. Rivers into custody. My daughter is clearly delirious from her injuries. She needs rest. The guards moved forward. Deshawn's hand closed around the USB drive in his pocket. He looked at Olivia one last time. She mouthed, "Run." And Deshawn realized this wasn't just about exposing a criminal anymore. This was about saving a daughter from a monster who wore her father's face. The USB drive burned in Deshawn's pocket like a live grenade. James Castellan's security guards filled the hospital room doorway, 6 men with dead eyes and hands that knew how to make problems disappear. Behind them, the billionaire stared at his daughter with the cold calculation of a man who'd already killed once to protect his empire. Last chance, Mr. Rivers. Castellan's voice was ice. Give me what my daughter gave you, walk away with $50,000, and forget this night ever happened. Deshawn's hand tightened around the drive. He thought about Amora, waiting at home. About Mrs. Chen's text still unanswered on his phone. About the $38 that had seemed like his biggest problem 12 hours ago. No, Deshawn said. Castellan's expression didn't change. Then you've chosen poorly. The guards moved forward. Stop. Olivia's voice cut through the room like a blade. Everyone froze. She was standing now, pale, shaking, one hand pressed against her bandaged ribs, but standing. She held her phone in her other hand, screen facing her father. I'm live streaming this to 4,000 followers, Dad. Every word. Every threat. Every second. Her thumb hovered over the screen. One more step toward him, and I hit share, to every major news outlet in Illinois. Castellan's jaw clenched. Olivia, you're not thinking clearly. I'm thinking clearer than I have in years. Her voice shook but held firm. You tried to have me killed. Your own daughter. Because I found out what you did to Mom. Because I gathered evidence of every crime, every life you've destroyed. I protected you. You murdered her. Olivia's scream echoed off the hospital walls. I was 12 years old, and you poisoned my mother because she was going to divorce you and take half your precious empire. The room went silent. Rachel stood in the doorway, blocking the exit. Marcus, Jennifer, and David had appeared behind her, all the victims, all the witnesses, all holding their phones up, recording. Castellan looked around at the circle closing in. For the first time, Deshawn saw something flicker in the billionaire's eyes. Fear. You have no proof, Castellan said quietly. We have everything. Deshawn pulled out the USB drive. Bank records. Audio confessions. Video evidence. And the autopsy report you buried showing arsenic levels that could only be murder. Castellan's mask finally shattered. You're a nobody. A loading dock worker. No one will believe you. They'll believe the FBI. The voice came from the hallway. Agent Sarah Chen stepped into the room, FBI badge held high, flanked by 6 federal agents in tactical gear. She was early 40s, sharp suit, sharper eyes. James Castellan, you're under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, attempted murder, and the murder of Diana Castellan. She nodded to Deshawn. Mr. Rivers contacted us 2 hours ago. We've been listening to everything. If your heart is racing right now, if you believe that justice can still win, hit that subscribe button. My father told me that stories about ordinary people taking down corrupt power would never matter to anyone. But you're here. You're listening. You're proving that truth still matters. Subscribe and share this story. Let the world know that one person's courage can change everything. Wait. Deshawn's voice stopped the agents from cuffing Castellan. Agent Chen, I never contacted you. I've been running for my life all night. Sarah Chen's expression didn't change. Then who? I did. Everyone turned. Rachel Martinez stepped forward, pulling off her nurse's scrub top to reveal an FBI windbreaker underneath. Special Agent Rachel Martinez, FBI Financial Crimes Unit. I've been undercover at Springfield Memorial for 8 months, investigating Castellan Technologies' medical device fraud. She looked at Olivia. When you texted me tonight about Deshawn, I knew it was time to move. Deshawn's head spun. You were FBI this whole time? The warehouse. Marcus, Jennifer, David, they're all cooperating witnesses we've been protecting. Rachel's voice was steady. But we never had enough evidence to charge James Castellan with murder. Not until tonight. She turned to Castellan. You just confessed to killing your wife in front of 4 federal agents, 12 witnesses, and a live stream that's already been downloaded by our tech team. Castellan's face went white. That confession is inadmissible. I was under duress. Actually, Agent Chen interrupted, your daughter invited you here voluntarily. You threatened Mr. Rivers voluntarily. And you confirmed the murder voluntarily when you didn't deny the accusation. She smiled coldly. We've been trying to get you for 15 years, Mr. Castellan. Tonight, you finally made a mistake. What mistake? Castellan's voice was desperate now. What could I possibly? You underestimated a broke single dad from Springfield. Agent Chen nodded to Deshawn. Because you assumed poverty meant powerless. You assumed a man working a loading dock couldn't possibly be smart enough, brave enough, or connected enough to take you down. Deshawn met Castellan's eyes. You were wrong. The agents moved forward. This time, no one stopped them. As they cuffed James Castellan, he looked at his daughter one last time. Olivia, I did everything for you. For our family. You did everything for yourself. Olivia's voice was quiet but final. And now you'll have the rest of your life in prison to think about what that cost you. They led him away. 6 weeks later, Deshawn stood outside Amora's new school in Lincoln Park, Chicago. Not Springfield. Not the cramped apartment with thin walls. A real neighborhood with trees and safety and hope. The FBI's witness protection stipend had moved them here while the trial prepared. But there was more. Agent Chen had connected Deshawn with the legal team handling the class action lawsuit against Castellan Technologies. Turned out, that algorithm Deshawn had designed at MIT, the Phoenix Protocol, had been stolen by Castellan's company 7 years ago. The settlement was $8 to $9 million. But Deshawn had taken only what he needed, enough to pay off the medical debt, buy a modest house, and fund Amora's education. The rest he'd donated to a foundation for single parents in crisis. Because money had never been the point. Olivia walked up beside him, leaning on a cane but smiling. She was testifying against her father next week. After that, she'd take control of Castellan Technologies and transform it into Phoenix Medical, a company dedicated to ethical healthcare innovation. You could have kept it all, Olivia said softly. The money. The recognition. You earned it. I kept what matters. Deshawn watched Amora playing on the school playground, laughing with new friends. She's safe. She's happy. That's enough. My father said you were nobody. Your father was wrong about a lot of things. Olivia smiled. He spent his whole life believing power came from money. From fear. From control. She looked at Deshawn. You showed him that real power comes from doing what's right when no one's watching. From choosing integrity over wealth. From being the kind of father who teaches his daughter that character matters more than currency. Deshawn's phone buzzed. A text from Rachel, Agent Martinez, trial date set. Castellan's facing 45 years. You changed everything, Deshawn. He looked at the USB drive in his hand, the one Olivia had given him that night. The evidence that had brought down an empire. I almost didn't stop, Deshawn said quietly. On that highway. I almost kept driving. But you didn't. Olivia put her hand on his shoulder. You turned back. You saved me. And by saving me, you saved yourself. That night, Deshawn tucked Amora into bed in their new home. She looked up at him with her mother's eyes. Daddy, kids at school asked why we moved. What should I tell them? Deshawn thought about the ditch. The hospital. The billionaire who'd tried to erase him. The choice that had changed everything. Tell them we moved because Daddy learned something important. That it doesn't matter how much money you have or don't have. What matters is what you do when someone needs help. What matters is choosing right over easy. What matters is being brave enough to stand up, even when the whole world says you're too small to matter. Amora smiled. You're not small, Daddy. You're a hero. Deshawn kissed her forehead. No, baby girl. I'm just a dad who refused to drive past someone in trouble. That's all any of us should be. But as he turned off her light and stood in the doorway of their safe, warm home, Deshawn knew the truth. Sometimes the distance between $38 and $89 million isn't measured in money. It's measured in the single choice to stop when everyone else keeps driving. To turn back when the easy path is forward. To save a stranger when saving yourself is simpler. James Castellan had spent 50 years building an empire on lies, fear, and murder. Deshawn Rivers had destroyed it in one night with nothing but integrity and a USB drive. And in the end, that made all the difference.